This is going to be a look at the Ravens' coverage meltdown in the fourth quarter of their Week 2 loss against Miami. A convergence of things happens here in this fourth quarter. I'm going to show you Tyreek Hill's 2 long touchdowns, and I'm going to show you selected throws from, I believe, the game-winning drive for Miami. The good thing is, even though they became unstoppable, at least for the personnel that we had on the field, and I'm going to do a pass rush video tonight that's going to premiere around 9:30. The good thing is we were able to offensively go down and get a field goal to take a 38-35 lead. Now, unfortunately, we were unable to stop them, and they won the game. We need touchdowns to score at some point. I understand that, but the good thing is we were at least able to answer and utilize the asset or set up the asset that we have in Justin Tucker. So I believe a convergence of things happens here in this fourth quarter as Miami just surges past us. And I said it in the reaction video, kind of hit a gear that we couldn't hit just because of the personnel they had on the field versus our defensive personnel. Number one, Tyreek Hill missed some time and came back after, I think, cramping up. Right around the time I think he comes back on the field, shortly thereafter, Marlon Humphrey is unable to go, I think, the rest of the game. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he missed like the last 14 or 15 snaps, something like that. So you have a +1 for them and a -1 for us in terms of high-level, elite personnel. I thought Marlon played really well for most of the game, to be honest with you. He had some really great tackles. I thought coming forward, there were some situations where he was in pretty good coverage. But Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are difficult covers for real. We'll talk about the 2 long touchdown passes to Tyreek Hill, and then also we'll talk about some of the things that maybe it seems like watching it now, we kind of were searching for a sack, hunting for a sack. And what I find interesting is the first first two plays I'm going to show you, the long touchdown passes to Tyreek Hill, both of them are on 3rd down. Now, I think we might be in a part of the game where whether they get it or not, with that statement for real, but like we're asking Patrick Queen to line up on the left side of the formation and then run underneath of, theoretically you could have 3 vertical. That's not what happens. 2 actually ends up kind of running this deep over route that, holds all of Kyle Hamilton's attention, and that's how come Marcus Peters gets no help at all. Look, I'll be honest with you, sometimes the play that's called just defeats your coverage. Having said that, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 6 guys in coverage, and one of them is Odafe Owe, who's really guarding nothing at this point, and he's lined up incredibly short, meaning he's lined up at 3 yards depth when the line to go in terms of gain for the 1st down is back here behind him. So I'm not a huge fan of the coverage, to be honest with you, but we don't know exactly what automatics they had, but the Ravens defense had. One thing that I really like about this, and from a Miami perspective, is Gesicki is going to block and then slide out into the flats. The number 2 receiver is going to run this kind of deep over. Again, that's the one that maintains Kyle Hamilton's attention. And then Tyreek Hill down here is going to run this vertical. My problem from a coverage standpoint isn't necessarily what Hamilton does. Of course, we'd like for him to help Marcus Peters deep, but he's got this deep over route developing in front of him that's going to be wide open too. But obviously you don't want to give up a touchdown. My problem isn't exactly with Patrick Queen, who at some point, drops out of here. I feel like he does a good job getting underneath the over route initially and then turns to look at the quarterback instead of just matching the route. Marcus Peters, I suspect he was playing a little less than 90%. I'd say 85, 88% would be my guess. I don't have a really huge problem with him. What I have a huge problem with, to be honest with you, is the fact that we're bringing so much pressure on 3rd and 10, and we're not respecting the talent that's here in Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle's a fantastic football player. He had 19 targets, didn't seem to tire. He came off a couple of times, but in my opinion, this is the same thing that Wink did at times to Tyreek Hill, not respect him. Can Marcus Peters guard Tyreek Hill? Of course he can, but Marcus Peters' specialty in terms of picking things off, anticipating throws, in my opinion, is on the intermediate and sometimes deep intermediate routes. On this type of situation, Tyreek Hill absolutely has the advantage over him, and I just don't know why you're not allocating a corner and a safety backside and saying, we're going to make sure that this guy doesn't beat us. Is Gesicki talented? Of course he is. Is Waddle talented? Of course he is. Chase Edmonds is a damn track star too. I think it's Chase Edmonds, right? The running back that busted like a 28-yard gain on the last drive. My problem with this isn't that, Kyle Hamilton takes this deep over route. His eyes are on that the whole time. I find it hard to believe that Kyle Hamilton's being told by his coaches to play half field safety here when you only got 5 coverage people assigned, and then you have an outside linebacker, OA, dropping out. That's not cover 2. That's not anything like cover 2. To me, that's more akin to a zone drop 3 deep, 3 under. Now, it doesn't look like 3 deep, 3 under here to me. Other than these guys, your 3 deep would be those 2 and Hamilton. And then your 3 under would be Pepe, Queen, and Owe. It doesn't, the route distribution doesn't end up looking like that. I'm not saying that it does, but bringing 5 and covering with 6, that is what I generally am aware of, unless you're just playing man-free with no low-hole dropper. But if we're playing man-free, Pat Queen is not going to be dropping out of here like this, and someone's going to be assigned to guard Gesicki as the number 3 guy to the top. It's a great route designed by them, for real. Utilizes their personnel perfectly. Gesicki sliding out into the flats late up there. The over route here, the vertical by Tyreek Hill, great design by them. Give them credit. I would say that we kind of opened the door for it. The last piece of this, to be honest with you, is I think Marcus Peters is not nowhere near 100%. Like I said, 85, 88%, because watch how slow the turn is. We would call that a 180-degree break. So his back is to the end zone, and then he's got to turn and get his chest to the end zone as quick as he can. I mean, Tyreek Hill's just running right by him. We need help there. That's not denigrating Marcus Peters at all. That's just being respectful of the athlete and the talent that Tyreek Hill is. This one's no different. Very similar, design from the standpoint of you have Hill here. He's going to run a vertical, and we've got 0 help here. I like JAD. I do. But he even has a look right now, like he's looking in there, like, is anybody going to come over here and help? And I think did the coaches teach us this coverage on 3rd and 6? Apparently. We're treating, I think this is Waddle here in the middle. It looks like we're bracketing him on the inside and outside with Williams and Hamilton, treating him almost as if he's Tyreek Hill. And I think that JAD's got a great talent. I think he's got a bright future. I love his break on 2 or 3 balls the other day. But again, my problem is we're doing things that kind of look like Wink Martindale. What the hell is wrong with just lining up the free safety over here, not trying to trick him? I know Tua is a strong dude, a smart guy. He's very experienced, played a high level of football in college, playing a high level of football now, and he's being coached very well offensively. I just don't see what's wrong with taking one of our cover guys, Marcus Williams, who's on fire in terms of interceptions, putting him backside and saying, you're not going to beat us on this play with this guy. You're going to have to beat us with somebody else. Gesicki, Waddle. Now, having said all that, like, this is a 0 on technique for JAD. This is no technique that I'm aware of. Like, yes, it's the NFL. You're not supposed to make contact downfield, but we want to at least touch the guy some, number 1. Number 2, if we're funneling him into a safety, I want to funnel him in some so his route comes in a little more. You know what I mean? There's really no funnel here. This is just let me move to the side so you can go ahead on your vertical, as opposed to actually 50% blame, 50% players, 50% coaches. Do the players on the field have to do things better? Of course, no doubt. And we should be mad. Like, this is a game we could have won. We should be mad. In my opinion, some of the things we're doing are not sound in these situations. Are we having trouble getting pressure on Tua? Absolutely. I got a pass rush video coming out tonight, showing us having trouble, getting pressure. But let's recap. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, the running back took Hamilton. So we brought 5. We still don't get to him. Patrick Queen does hit him. It's a nice anticipation throw. I guess one issue would be if you were going to be real picky with JAD and you'd say, okay, we're bringing 5. We're probably going to get there. You got a break on the ball, and we get no break on the ball. But can you blame him? He's dealing with Tyreek Hill over there. So again, you're bringing 5. You're covering with 6. Appears to be man, really off man here. Appears to be man here. Zone dropping Justin Houston. Not sure who would have had to run him back if he didn't chop Kyle Hamilton down. Hopefully I'm not pausing this too much for you guys. Onus on the players? Yeah, absolutely. But if you're a JAD, and to this point, you've already been beat deep by Tyreek Hill, You don't want to get beat deep. It doesn't surprise me that he's off so much and doesn't break on this ball. He's a rookie. I'm not sure that he should have been put in that situation, but we know injuries had something to do with it. So we get to play a little bit of Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening quarterback, obviously, because we're not involved in the meetings, we're not involved in the practice. This appears to be man, and I think this is Marcus Williams playing at a high level, kind of similar to what he did against the Jets. He's breaking down here. He understands where Tua's going to go with the football. Marcus Peters, a little bit slower in his turn, not as connected to Hill, but that's a speed deficit, for real. Even a healthy Marcus Peters. Tyreek Hill is just a real problem. We would love to make this tackle here. It's a 1st and 10, but look, let's be honest, guys. After Hill had already scored twice, after we had stopped attacking offensively, because I think that's a big part of what happened too, and we should be frustrated about that for real. Like, we stopped attacking. I don't know that 2nd and 6 is really going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference for real at this point. We have too many missed tackles. Obviously, Chuck Clark finishes them off. At this point, talent-wise, for that day, the reality is they're better than us at this point right now. With the version of Marcus Peters that we have on the field, with Pepe, JAD, I believe after Pepe got hurt, that Worley had to come in. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Credit to the Dolphins. They ran a lot of plays. They recognized certain things they could do. They took advantage of us, and they had us on a string. By the way, this play concept right here has been used against the Ravens for the last 3 or 4 years. So it's a zone to this side. Okay, the offense is right. You're going to get the end zone angle in a minute. But what's happening is they're motioning one guy across because they know it's man. So as Pepe motions across, that's -1. Okay? Also, Chuck Clark is manned up on this tight end, and this has happened like 6 times to Chuck Clark because he's manned. And we don't do this thing where we banjo read when this guy goes across, like an inside linebacker who would normally be lined up here would go ahead and take him over and then let Chuck take, let's say the back showed up to his side. I'll give you an end zone angle of that, and hopefully it'll look a little better. But so we're -1 with Pepe. Gesicki goes that way. Here's Gesicki. There's Chuck. So now I'd say we're -2 on the run fit. Look at the release here. It's an outside release. We're playing man. The space that is vacated is right here where Chuck was standing. It's not Chuck Clark's fault. It's our fault for not having some type of read-in to respect the fact that we've got an H-back coming across the formation. H-back being Gesicki. I'm going to give you the end zone angle. Hopefully, number one, I can do a better job explaining it. Hopefully the angle lets you guys see it a little better. So I know you got a frame on the left-hand side, but you can see Pepe. Pepe's going to go across with this guy 85. I forget his name. So that's the -1 in terms of the run fit. First of all, we don't have an inside linebacker lined up at inside linebacker. Queen is lined up here at edge. And we're bringing Hamilton, which I'm not. They just seem to have us on a string. It's going to be very easy for me to be critical, okay? So I got to slow myself down on some of this. It's going to be very easy to be critical because it seems like they had all the right calls. As Gesicki goes across here and blocks Queen, look, you can see Chuck is going with him. And Edmonds just ends up going right into the vacated space where Chuck was. It seems to me we're playing some elaborate, creative stunt on that second touchdown by Hill. I think we opened the door for them just as much as they took advantage of us. A great play by Pepe over the middle. I'll do a pass rush video. I've actually already recorded the audio. One of the things I noticed is like Justin Houston is the only guy. Look at the depth he's at. Our other guys are not at the depth that you need to get. In order to sack the quarterback, you've got to get to the point where he's at. Yes, but there is depth involved, and then there is spot. Of course, you're not going at that angle, right? But you've got to get to the depth in order to sack the quarterback. Justin Houston right now is the only guy that I see doing that, at least late in the game against Miami. It seemed like we got kind of worn down at D tackle. It's a tough break for us when Pepe went out. I don't know if you guys, thought it was as big a loss as I did. Really think he's a unique player. Tough, tackles well. Did y'all see him tackle Tyreek Hill on the sideline, man? Really, really love his game. This is the all-22 of that same play. Just a competitor. Just a competitor, man. We really are blessed to be able to get him and JAD. Of course, it doesn't sound appropriate to say that at this time, given that we blew the lead. One thing that they're setting up down here, Gasecki is running, what looks to be like a China in, and that is very similar to the route that Pepe gets beat on a little bit later in this video. I think I'll show you that play. So I'm not sure if this is what you guys are looking for. You got trips again, and now they've got Hill backside, and I don't know what we're doing here. We've got a corner. We've got like two safeties here. I mean, I don't know what this is. I really don't know what this is. The only thing I can think is that Chuck is on the back, and Marcus Williams and Marcus Peters are double teaming Hill. But the alignment looks really weird to me. And again, what happens on this play? We end up leaving JAD over there with no help, and he gets beat by Jalen Waddle. Again, it's another little route where he's going to the outside, shaking, and then coming back in. So there's change of direction, there's agility involved there, and JAD doesn't have help on either side. And it certainly looks like it's going to be a rub or a screen here. We're not switching it off. We're just staying with our guy. And it certainly looks like Worley does a great job fitting underneath of that, if you ask me. And JAD is left on Waddle. Tough cover. I mean, he's lost there once the change of direction happens. Does that mean that JAD can't play? Hell no. That dude can play. He still is able to challenge it. I actually thought he was going to be able to get up there and get a piece of it. Coverage and rush are related. And we're dropping two guys out of here. And then it looks like Chuck is responsible for the back over here. And there's just too much space for JAD to try to cover on the second, slot number 1 and slot number 2. If Waddle runs, to the pylon on the outside, JAD's good. But he changes direction, brings it back inside, and he's beat. Finishing up, I'm just not sure that we can expect some of our guys that are new, Pepe, JAD, to cover Waddle and Hill in these situations. And it shouldn't surprise us that we end up getting beat. I think our guys competed. We definitely ran out of gas. I don't know how you perceive it at this time, being Tuesday afternoon. We definitely ran out of gas. We did not generate near enough pass rush. The teams and the health and the guys that were available on Sunday, we ran out of gas, if you ask me. Now, having said that, that goes back to tactical decisions that we made, if you ask me, early in the game to leave points on the board. It's easy for me to say that, obviously, at this point. Leaving points on the board, meaning going for it on 4th and goal from the 1 when the Dolphins defense has stopped us 4 plays in a row, proving to us that we're not capable of beating them in that situation as they did later on, number 1. And then number 2, in the third quarter, I thought we let our foot off the gas pedal offensively. So, yeah, you, me, anyone, we can sit here and blame the defense entirely. Having said that, we got a kickoff return for a touchdown. We got 2 interceptions on them. And then once they didn't turn the ball over and once we stopped scoring, they just blazed right by us. To me, they were just a better team than us in the second half. That comes down to coaching, the players that are available, the condition they're in, because there was a lot of guys that were cramping up. And the lack of the pass rush is a huge problem right now for us. That's why they apparently brought in JPP today for a visit. And there's even some indication that Blake Martinez has been looked at inside linebacker, guy that played at a pretty high level with the Giants, if you ask me, but for whatever reason doesn't fit in Wink's system, I guess. Let me know what you think of my breakdown. That was obviously the game-winning touchdown there. Disappointing end to week 2, but it's a long season, guys. I want to be a little bit of a voice of reason or encouragement for you. Sometimes it's good to have certain coverages not work early on because then the coach has to say, okay, I shouldn't have called this coverage here. Okay, I shouldn't have called this coverage with Tyreek Hill as the X, because he's a special player. Very similar to Lamar in some ways in that there's certain things defensively you can't do against Lamar. You can't just play man free, bring 4 or 5 every play, because if Lamar puts his foot in the ground and scrambles, he could take it to the house for 60 or 70. So there's certain coverages that you can't play against special players. That's just reality. Jerry Rice was the same way. So I offer to you that we're not as good as we looked up 35-14. We're not as bad as we looked in the fourth quarter when we ran out of gas and it looked like Humphrey missed the last 14 or 15 plays. Marlon had trouble staying on Peters, came off the field some. That looked like a strategic, rotation until such time that Pepe went down and was unable to go. Anyway, let me know what you think of the breakdown. Obviously, we got a lot to vent about, deservedly so, because we're Ravens fans. We're passionate. We expect to win, especially we expect to win at home when we're up by 3 touchdowns, late in the third quarter. Appreciate you guys checking out the video. Let me know what you think of my breakdowns, what you think the Ravens could have done differently. I did second guess our coaches with some of our calls. Our players, it's a little bit more difficult for me to second guess, for real, because I feel like some of the situations they were put in, like that first touchdown I showed you with Kyle Hamilton, he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. If he peels off at Tyreek Hill, Tua throws it to the deep over, that thing's wide open because that receiver's cleared Patrick Queen by the time the ball was leaving Tua's hands. And if he does what he did in reality, which is go with the deep over route, leave Marcus Peters solo on the deep vertical against Tyreek Hill, we're going to give up a touchdown. So I feel like some of the situations our players were put in was bad call by our coaches, number one. And number two, just a great job of executing by the Dolphins offense. You got to give them credit. Appreciate you guys checking out the video. If you think other people would enjoy this content, please consider sharing it on social media.